Lando Norris is the Formula One World Champion! Norris wins the title in 2025! McLaren will retain their crown. They are the Constructors Champions of 2025. McLaren, World Champions, once again. After a decade in the doldrums, a season to remember for one of Formula One's most famous constructors.
We did it, mate. We did it. World Champions. Well done.
Papaya Rules.
Lewis Hamilton is the world champion.
Unbelievable.
Guys, I'm speechless.
And there's Ron Dennis waiting to greet his man home, and he's going to be truly ecstatic, as rightly so. Everybody in the McLaren team is going to be, because here is the flying Finn. Mika Häkkinen wins the Japanese Grand Prix of 1999 and takes the checkered flag. Mika Häkkinen wins in Japan. He is world champion.
McLaren in 2008 was still one of the greatest teams in Formula One history. 12 Drivers' Championships, 8 Constructors, a factory in Woking run by team principal Ron Dennis and CEO Martin Whitmarsh, who believed obsessively that perfection was possible. Then came the years that were hard to explain to people who hadn't watched them in real time. A disastrous Honda partnership. Fernando Alonso, a 2-time world champion, mocking the engine on live television, comparing it to a GP2 engine. Retirement and embarrassment were trophies used to stand. McLaren became a team you watched out of loyalty or history or pity, not because you expected them to win.
Yeah, I feel embarrassed, when I'm racing sometimes, because it's frustrating when you see the other cars making mistakes, braking late, going out of racing line, going sideways, etc. And then, you look on the mirror, on the straight, to look for them, and they are side by side already. So it's the deficit on power we have is just like another category. So
in November 2016, Zak Brown arrived, an American, a businessman, a former racing driver. At 13 years old, he appeared on Wheel of Fortune, winning $3,050, money he used to buy his first go-kart, unknowingly setting the foundation for his future in motorsport.
And I got on, I won the first 2 rounds, and some his and her watches. And I went and turned around and sold those watches at a pawn shop, bought a go-kart, and that's how my racing career got started.
He would go on to found the world's largest motorsport marketing agency, Just Marketing International, before becoming CEO of McLaren and Formula One. He understood something crucial: how to fix a broken organization commercially, structurally, and culturally.
What I quickly found was grumpy sponsors, grumpy fans, grumpy employees. Other than that, everything was great. Everything kind of pointed at, it's Honda's fault. That's what I walked into. Yeah.
He cut the Honda deal, brought in Renault engines, and started again. In December 2022, he appointed Andrea Stella as team principal, an Italian engineer, deliberate, methodical, the kind of man who doesn't raise his voice because he doesn't need to.
We just come from different directions, so more than seeing the separation, I actually see the unity. But we come with our, just being 2 different individuals, different background, but effectively leading the same thing together. This would not be possible if there wasn't the underlying condition of a great relationship, great respect, and esteem, which I think is mutual, and this is what makes it successful.
Stella had spent decades in F1 without ever becoming famous. That was about to change. The pieces were in place, and then came the drivers.
In 2017, a 17-year-old from Somerset walked into the McLaren factory for the first time. Small, quiet, and painfully shy in front of cameras.
I struggled at this time a lot with self-confidence. As much as everyone says, like, you know, you can't, like, it was something I really struggled with growing up. When I entered Formula One for that first year and a bit, was, am I good enough to be here? Like, that's the question I always ask myself.
When he first met the legendary Ron Dennis, Ron wasn't convinced. He was uncertain, by Zak Brown's own account, whether Lando Norris had what it takes to make it in Formula One. Lando heard that, and he didn't flinch.
The main thing is just to laugh at it, basically. You get a few people, like, on social media and stuff who, don't like you, basically. But whether it's fueled by jealousy or what, I don't know. But I don't think there's a lot you can do apart from just ignore it and kind of joke about it.
He dominated junior categories, European F3, then F2, before McLaren handed him a race seat for 2019 at just 19 years old. He was fast from day one and stayed fast. He took his first podium in 2020.
And Lando Norris gets on the podium for the first time in Formula One. He put in the fastest lap of the race on the last lap of the race, and by a 1/10 of a second, Lando Norris is a podium sitter.
Lando, the gap to Hamilton was 4.8. I think that's a podium, mate. I think that's a podium.
He nearly won at Sochi in 2021, leading with 5 laps to go, but the racing odds were not in his favour, as he faced a late rain shower, slick tyres, and the cruelest of outcomes.
Yeah, tough one, but on the positive side, I guess I got a couple of points, and Daniel did a good job as well, so for the team, it was still a decent day.
Still, he kept coming back. Year after year, McLaren's heartbeat, competing in cars that weren't always capable of more. The one thing missing? A win. The joke started. Lando No Wins was the title he was given. He smiled through it, mostly.
As much as I love to see it, and I go on Instagram and I like all the comments of people abusing me, I freaking love it. It makes me smile more than anything, especially Lando No Wins. Like, that's become the thing.
Oscar Piastri arrived at McLaren in 2023, carrying controversy and an extraordinary amount of quiet confidence.
Benefit is they like a very similar race car, so we're getting constant, consistent feedback from the two. Last thing you want to do is have two drivers that one says they have understeer, the other says they have oversteer, and then kind of what do you do? So I think we're benefiting from having two very fast drivers that are very technical, and we do have an experience in a rookie. It's just our experienced guy happens to be pretty young.
He had spent years in Alpine's junior programme, winning Formula 3, then Formula 2, back-to-back, before Alpine had promised him a 2023 seat, then offered it to Fernando Alonso without telling him. Oscar found out. His management fought back through the F1 contract recognition board. Alpine lost, and McLaren signed him.
They really, really wanted me. They wanted to invest in youth. You know, they've shown that through their previous years with, you know, people like Lando, like Lewis. So, you know, I think it's sort of been in the team's spirit and mentality.
He came from Melbourne, from a go-kart track called Oakley, where he came dead last in his first race. The club president remembered him as unremarkable. What was different was his composure, described from childhood as very methodical, hardly ever seen raising his voice.
He's very confident. He's very quiet. He seems a bit more relaxed.
His 2023 season with McLaren confirmed that he belonged. A first podium at Japan, 12 points off Lando by the end of the year.
As Oscar Piastri, for the first time in Formula One, comes home to take third place and stand on the podium.
That is P3, buddy. Great job.
Woo! Well done, everyone. Remember that for a long time.
In 2024, his second season, he won his first race in Hungary. 2 drivers, 1 team, and 2 titles to fight for. The question was whether the team could hold together long enough for both.
McLaren entered 2024 as the 4th fastest car on the grid. They didn't panic.
They've done a fantastic job the second half of last year. I think that they showed what they were capable of with some great leadership from Andrea and his leadership team. I think that's continued in the off-season, so we know we definitely have a faster race car. We're not yet quite sure what the other 9 teams have done, other than we know they weren't hibernating over the the winter.
The plan was deliberate. Wait for a major upgrade package, keep accumulating points, stay in the fight. And while they waited, Lando and Oscar did exactly that. Consistent, professional, and patient.
Do I think we've taken a step forward? Absolutely. Do I think we've made a lot of things better? Yes. But you never really know in the end of the day where we stand comparing to others.
The upgrade arrived in Miami. Lando had qualified 5th. Not where you'd expect a race winner to start.
I was quite a bit more confident yesterday in terms of getting lap time out of the car, so yeah, I'm not sure. I feel like we made a couple of changes with the car and hard to know if they were in the right direction now. Of course, when you go on track, sometimes things change a little bit, so yeah, I felt a bit more confident yesterday on extracting lap time. Today I kind of felt like I got there and struggled to do a lot more, so some stuff for us to review and think about for next time, but on the whole, of course, P5 is still not bad.
He ran 6th in the early laps, consistent but not a factor up front. Max led, as he'd led almost everything in 2024 up to that point. 4 wins in the first 5 races. And then came the chaos McLaren needed.
Race leader with the swap on, trying to take avoiding action, and he clobbers the vola.
Oscar, in the other McLaren, had already led briefly as strategy played out around them. When Oscar pitted, Lando inherited the lead, and held it. Then, on lap 29, a collision between Haas driver Kevin Magnussen and Williams' Logan Sargent brought out the safety car.
Off the road goes Kevin Magnussen, and looking at our driver tracker, Logan Sargent might be there as well. The home favourite, the full safety car is out. Lando Norris is going to get the benefit. You only lose 9 seconds under the safety car. He's got 11 to Max Verstappen.
Lando pitted under it. The rest of the field, who'd already stopped, couldn't. When racing resumed on lap 33, Lando was in the lead, on fresher tyres, with Max demoted behind him. Max attacked into turn 1 at the restart. Lando defended.
Can Lando Norris keep Max Verstappen behind? We're fighting immediately on the restart here. Norris, Verstappen, then Leclerc. It's close between Perez and Sainz further back.
A small Max error gave the McLaren driver the breathing room he needed, and from there, he was gone.
It's a landmark day for Lando! Lando Norris wins for the first time in Formula One! It's victory in Miami for Norris and McLaren!
He won by 7.6 seconds, his first Formula One victory, after 110 starts. After every near miss and every mocking nickname.
I love you all.
He celebrated with his McLaren team until the early hours. But he wasn't finished.
Yeah, for me to finally prove those people wrong and prove the people that didn't think I could go out and do it, it's put an even bigger smile on my face today, so I thank all of them.
The Dutch Grand Prix, Max's home race. In 3 previous visits to Zandvoort since the circuit's return to the F1 calendar, Max had never lost. Lando took pole. On lap 17, he passed Max for the lead.
He's getting to the apex first, he's moving ahead, and all of the damage done at the start of the Grand Prix is forgotten now because Lando Norris takes the lead.
He never looked back.
And today, at the house that Max rebuilt, the winner's orange once again, but this time, he's driving a McLaren for the second time in Formula One. Lando Norris wins the Dutch Grand Prix with a crushing performance.
He won by 22 seconds. He set the fastest lap on the final lap of the race, on 44-lap-old hard tyres, to complete a pole, win, and fastest lap triple. The first driver, other than Max, to win at Zandvoort since its return.
I knew beating Max would be a tough task today, but the car was amazing. The car felt incredible out there and I had a lot of confidence I could push.
Oscar won in Hungary. A lights-to-flag dominant victory, his first in Formula One, with Lando second behind him.
He announced himself in Formula One with a tweet that said he would not be driving for another team. It turned out that he would be driving for McLaren, and he's taking that McLaren to the top step of the podium. The Australian driver advances all the way to the checkered flag. Oscar Piastri wins for the first time in Formula One.
Then Baku, even more commanding. Oscar snatched the lead from Leclerc with an overtake around the outside at turn 1 and drove away from the field.
He's a Grand Prix winner for the second time.
And what a day for McLaren. All the fallout from Monza, how they lost the race. This time they've won it. The genius of Piastri has won the race.
McLaren had become a team that didn't just win occasionally. They won consistently.
We've climbed the top of the mountain, now we want to stay here, but in Formula One you got to climb every year. But yeah, that and the pressure was intense because our desire to win was intense, and we cared, but we always had so much support from our sponsors and our core fans, if you like, and the team, that the resilience of all the men and women here is awesome.
Singapore, Lando again, dominant, clinical. He won by 20 seconds over Max and didn't put a wheel wrong all race. 3 wins for Lando in a season. McLaren were now leading the Constructors Championship for the first time.
The car was good, the car was great in the first half. It's been an amazing weekend, so very, very happy to end it off like this.
The final race. Ferrari were 21 points behind in the Constructors' Championship. The margin was slim. The pressure was immense.
It is time to answer the final question of the season. Who will we call the champion constructor of the world?
Lando started on pole alongside Oscar in a McLaren front row lockout. The crucial moment came on lap 26. As Sainz threatened an undercut, McLaren executed Lando's pit stop in just 2 seconds, the fastest stop of the race, and he rejoined ahead. From there, it was never in doubt. He crossed the line to win his 4th race of the year, and as he did, the numbers confirmed it.
But this is the moment that McLaren dreamed of. Lando Norris wins the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. McLaren are world champions of 2024. They win the Constructors' title for the first time since 1998.
The team erupted. But the Drivers' Championship, the one Lando was working toward for his entire career, had gone to Max. Again.
A lot of work, a lot of effort, a lot of hours goes into achieving something like this. A lot of years goes into achieving something like this. Is not a small feat. This is huge for everyone. So it's a historic moment, and for me to be a part of that is something I'll remember forever.
He had one more year to fix that.
Inside the McLaren garage, a question had been building since the summer of 2024. Lando and Oscar were both fast, both capable of winning, both, theoretically, equal.
Is there a feeling, or slight feeling, that it might be a chance missed in the Drivers' Championship this one?
We're just focused on getting the best results that we can, and we're doing that every weekend. And Lando had his mistake there where he ran a bit long, so that kind of put him out of contention. So we let him race to the end.
The team had always believed in running 2 number 1s. No hierarchy, no favourites. In principle, admirable. In practice, complicated. The Italian Grand Prix at Monza in September 2024 was the first real test. On the opening lap, Oscar passed Lando, who was on pole, cleanly and took the lead.
As the McLarens are side by side, and Oscar Piastri's going all the way around the outside to take the lead with a bold and brilliant move. Lando still can't keep the lead on lap number 1, and he's lost second place to Charles Leclerc.
No contact, no drama. Just 2 McLarens racing each other at the front of the grid. Andrea Stella, watching from the pit wall, called it compliant with the philosophy: race hard, race clean, don't touch. That was what Papaya Rules meant. Not a freeze on competition, but a commitment to keep both cars intact and both drivers scoring.
Don't crash into each other, but apart from that, there's not much more than this. We let them race, we want to see them racing with fairness, We want to see them racing with respect for the brand.
The team let them race. The result? A 2-3 finish. Ferrari took the win in the Constructors Championship scorecard. But with Lando in a genuine title fight against Max, some inside the paddock questioned whether that was the right call, whether letting Oscar hold position ahead of his teammate while points were being dropped to the championship leader was too principled for its own good. Critics weren't convinced. They argued McLaren was being naive, that in a title fight you need clear priorities, not philosophical guidelines. Could the team really run 2 number ones all the way to the end? Zach and Andrea held their position.
We treat our drivers equally, fairly, transparently, and it is hard to figure out, reading the room of, all right, Lando's got the best chance at the moment. You don't want to sacrifice Oscar's season. It's had an unbelievable season, so I think we did it at the right time.
It wasn't the last time those rules would be tested.
The 2025 season began in Bahrain at pre-season testing, and it was immediately clear McLaren had not stood still.
Red Bull and Mercedes will, I think, for the Drivers' Championship, be one-horse teams. Ferrari and McLaren will have some infighting going on. They might start taking points off each other, but with 24 races in the championship, a team can't start even thinking about that until August, September time.
Their race simulations and testing were breathtaking. Lando ran so quickly that according to analysts, he would have run the simulated race by over 30 seconds. Oscar was faster than everyone else on race pace.
After last year, I think we kind of have no excuses, I guess. In the past, we've had our fair share, but honest and true excuses. I think this year we kind of don't have any. We have nothing to hide behind. We proved last year we have everything we need and everything it takes to fight at the top and be the best.
The team played it down. Andrea Stella cautioned that these were conditions our car enjoys, but the data was hard to argue with. They arrived in Melbourne as favourites.
It's Lando Norris who takes the opening pole of the year. Then it's Oscar Piastri, Max Verstappen, George Russell and Yuki Tsunoda.
Okay, that is pole.
Not a bad way to start the year. Well done, everyone.
Lando qualified on pole. Oscar Piastri alongside him. A McLaren front row lockout. The race was intense. Multiple safety cars, rain arriving in sheets at the worst possible moment. Oscar ran second through much of the race, controlling the gap behind Lando, while the weather threatened. Then, with the field having switched to slick tyres, another wall of rain hit.
Piastri trying to take at least a point away from what will be a day of hurt, a day where he could have found himself at the front.
The McLarens ran off the road at the penultimate corner. Lando gathered his car and made it back to the pit lane. Oscar didn't. He spun rearwards into the turn 13 runoff and lost a lap trying to recover.
Off go the McLarens! First of all, Lando Norris, then Oscar Piastri, and Max Verstappen is on line to take second place, and he does so as the Australian driver spins at the penultimate corner of the racetrack. Can he keep the car going? Is that the moment that home victory dreams are dashed for Oscar Piastri?
Lando pitted for intermediates, rejoined and held his nerve through a final safety car restart, with Max closing right up behind him on the last lap. Lando had just enough.
Now he sees the crowd rise to applaud him as the winner. Norris weathers the storm. The British driver sees the checkered flag first. Lando Norris wins the Australian Grand Prix.
A 5th career victory. An emphatic statement of intent.
I mean, you could see how many mistakes people were making, crashing, ending their races very early on, from start to finish. So people on the outside, I really don't think they realize how tricky a race like that is, especially when you're racing at the front and when you've got a bit of a margin, you can relax, you can get into a really nice rhythm, but like the last 3 laps, they were stressful.
Oscar fought back from last to 9th.
Obviously a mistake for myself, but yeah, I think for it to have the consequences it did was a little bit unfortunate. So
it was bad luck, nothing more. What came next proved it.
China, Oscar took pole and won.
And Oscar Piastri was consumed with rage. You are watching his emphatic response for Piastri. The time is now. Oscar Piastri wins the Chinese Grand Prix.
Lando started third, moved up to second in the opening laps, and finished right behind his teammate.
Great job, mate. And it's a 1-2 for the team.
Yeah, mega job, guys. Mega job.
McLaren's 50th 1-2 finish in Formula One history. Bahrain. Oscar on pole again. From the moment the lights went out, he was in command. George Russell tried to challenge him into turn 1, locked up, and fell away.
Instant launch off the line for George Russell. It's a battle for P2 at the moment. Can Russell get alongside Piastri? With Russell getting close to him, but not close enough.
Lando made a rocket start from 6th to 3rd inside the first corner, only to be hit with a 5-second penalty for a false start, served at his pit stop.
There you go, the front axle beyond the white line. And that yellow line...
Clapping his own for his box.
That is incredible.
A safety car on lap 32 gave McLaren a free stop, and Oscar, after a clean restart, extended his lead to over 15 seconds. He crossed the line to win by that margin.
The Australian driver is at the final corner of the last lap. Piastri sees the checkered flag first. Oscar Piastri wins the Bahrain Grand Prix for just his 4th win in Formula One.
Russell held second despite pressure from Lando. Lando finished third. McLaren's first ever win at Bahrain International Circuit. Oscar had now won twice in 3 weekends. It was also his 50th Grand Prix start.
Very happy. It's been a great weekend, starting with qualifying. That was a really nice performance, and then the race today, felt like we had it under control. So very proud of the team for giving us a great car. Proud of myself for putting a good weekend together as well, and excited for next week.
Saudi Arabia. Qualifying ended with Max on pole and Lando crashing out in Q3, starting 10th.
So early, and a minor moment with a major repercussion for the World Championship as Norris goes over the curb and into the wall.
At the start, Oscar got the jump on Max in the first corner. Max swept around the outside of the chicane to stay ahead, cutting across the runoff. Oscar was immediately on the radio. "I was ahead," he said.
I can tell you that the turn 1 incident that we've been talking about has been noted by race control. Piastri to the apex, Verstappen hanging on to it, and Verstappen is still the lead car in the Grand Prix.
The stewards agreed. A 5-second time penalty was handed to Max, to be served at his pit stop. Max held the lead on track for the first stint, but the penalty was a clock ticking. When he came in on lap 21, he emerged from his box 5 seconds later than usual. Oscar had already pitted and was already ahead.
Oscar Piastri wins the Saudi Grand Prix to beat Max Verstappen by 2.8 seconds. The first Australian driver to lead the championship in 15 years.
That was it. Oscar won by 2.8 seconds, the amount Max lost in his pit box. 3 wins in 5 races.
Well done, everyone. It was a little bit more difficult to start than I had hoped for, but very well done.
Lando, on a magnificent recovery drive from 10th, crossed the line 4th. Oscar now led the Drivers' Championship for the first time in his career, the first Australian to lead the standings since his manager Mark Webber in 2010.
I had to work for that one pretty hard. Obviously the start was really good and got myself alongside into turn 1, and essentially holding my ground is what won me the race. So trying to stay in the dirty air was pretty much impossible today.
I think it was the best we could achieve today. Clearly we're not head and shoulders above the rest. As Oscar showed, it's not an easy race. Max probably would have won if we didn't have the penalty. We've got this kind of issue still. It's not easy race.
Miami. Oscar won a 4th race, his 4th win in 6 rounds. Lando finished 2nd. The gap between them, 16 points. Max, quietly accumulating, sits 16 points behind Lando in 3rd. The first murmur of what was coming from the Red Bull garage.
Monaco, round 8. Lando desperately needed a win.
a nice feeling. Felt comfortable from the beginning, but needed to progress more in some areas.
Oscar's 4 wins in 7 rounds had put him 13 points clear, and a growing number of critics were beginning to suggest Lando couldn't deliver when it mattered. He qualified on pole, the only driver under 1 minute 9 seconds, a lap that silenced the doubters.
What an extraordinary qualifying hour concluded with Lando Norris on pole position.
The race itself was a 78-lap game of nerve. A new mandatory 2 pit stop rule turned Monaco into an elaborate chess match, with teams deploying teammates to slow traffic and protect position. Lando managed it all, surviving a massive brake lock-up into Saint-Devote at the start to hold off Charles Leclerc, managing virtual safety cars, managing Max running a long alternative strategy ahead of him.
There's a race win if a successful lunge is made here by Leclerc. There's going to have to be a lunge to do it.
When Max finally pitted on the penultimate lap, Lando had clean air. He crossed the line first.
Lando will join the legendary winners of this race. Lando Norris wins the Monaco Grand Prix.
McLaren's first Monaco win since Lewis Hamilton in 2008.
An incredible race. We won Monaco, which has been a dream of mine since I was a kid. It's one race that everyone wants to win.
After 8 rounds, Oscar led by just 3 points. Max was a further 22 back. The championship was wide open.
Drama everywhere you look. No dramas for Oscar Piastri, who wins his 5th Grand Prix of the year. Piastri takes the Spanish Grand Prix.
Spain. Oscar won. A 5th victory of the season. He stretched his lead back to 10 points over Lando. Max was 49 adrift. Through 7 of the first 9 rounds, Oscar Piastri had won 5 times. A McLaren title was looking inevitable.
Getting through all the traffic was really tough, and the dirty air from 3 seconds, 4 seconds back starts to already make a big difference. And I felt like it was difficult to get through that at points, but I feel like when I needed to push and unleash the pace, then I could do a good job.
The only question was which McLaren driver would claim it.
Round 10. Canada. This is where the cracks begin to show.
Oh, bailout for Lando Norris in Q3 on that first run. Can't make the chicane.
He'd been the faster of the 2 McLarens all weekend. The pressure of the big moments had cost him again.
I just pushed a bit hard and too many mistakes, that's all.
He recovered brilliantly in the race, running long on hard tyres to undercut those on softs, climbing into contention in the final stint. By the closing laps, he was right behind Oscar, both of them chasing 4th with Kimi Antonelli's Mercedes just ahead.
They've been saying all the way through the season, at some point it's going to get close.
So let's attack Oscar while he doesn't have DRS.
That's the encouragement from race engineer to driver, building up to 200 miles per hour. Oscar Piastri looking in the left mirror because his rival for the title is right there.
On lap 66, Lando got past Oscar at the hairpin, a clean, decisive move. Oscar hit back at the final chicane, defending hard and retook the position on the exit. Now, Lando had the slipstream down the pit straight. He tried to go left. Oscar was always going to defend that side.
No, he's ripped out the front wing! The McLarens collide! Lando Norris into the wall and out of the race! Chasing 4th place, the McLarens collide and Norris is out!
The gap wasn't there. Lando's front wing clipped Oscar's left rear tyre and he hit the pit wall at high speed. His front left suspension was gone and his race was over. A safety car brought out for the stricken McLaren. George Russell, who had led from pole throughout, was confirmed winner. Oscar pitted under the yellow flags and held on to 4th. On the radio, Lando didn't hesitate.
Are you alright, dude?
Yeah, sorry. Oh, my bad. Hold up. Oh, my fault. Unlucky. Sorry. Stupid for me.
After the race, he talked to the media pen and found Oscar. He apologised in person, then to the press.
I just misjudged it. It was all my mistake. I take full blame, so I apologise to my whole team and to Oscar for attempting something like that.
He now trailed Oscar by 22 points.
2 weeks after Canada, Lando came back fighting.
That is pole and by some margin. Well done.
Yes, thank you guys. Nice to see the old me back every now and then. Huh? What a car was pretty damn beautiful.
He qualified pole in Austria, half a second clear of the rest of the field. And on race day, he needed every bit of that advantage. Oscar, hungry to reassert himself, was immediately on him at the start.
Piastri super brain around the outside, tries the up and under, no chance at the moment. This is absolutely wonderful. They're at it again, but it's not for 4th place. It's for the lead of the Grand Prix, and they still can't resolve it. Lando hangs on. Lando still leads. What a fight.
On lap 11, Oscar made his move at turn 3. Lando had gone wide and the Australian was through. But Lando cut back with momentum, swept alongside at turn 4 and retook the position, inches from contact. The McLaren pit wall sent Oscar a pointed warning. The turn 4 attempt had been too marginal.
Mate, I don't have time for another lap, do I?
No, you've got to go.
Fuck me, man. Jesus Christ.
Max, meanwhile, never got to see any of this. He was eliminated on the opening lap when Kimi Antonelli's Mercedes locked up and drove straight into the side of the Red Bull at turn 3. Both were out on the spot. After the stop cycled through, Lando managed the gap to Oscar through traffic, through a second tyre change and to the flag. McLaren's first win in Austria since 2001, championship lead cut to 15 points. Oscar apologised publicly for the near collision, one race after Lando had collected one of his own.
You know, with hindsight, maybe I could have done a couple of things a bit differently with when I tried to get past, but, you know, in the moment, you've got to take the opportunity when it comes.
Silverstone. 500,000 people attended over the course of the weekend. It was a record. And in the middle of it all, in front of his family and the fans who had been there his whole career, Lando Norris won his home Grand Prix for the first time.
In 2025, it's Norris's name on the trophy. Lando Norris wins the British Grand Prix. Oscar Piastri will say the penalty was so unfair, but it's a McLaren one too, as Norris takes 7 points out of his advantage.
It wasn't clean. Nothing in this season ever was. The race began in damp conditions behind the safety car. Max on pole and Oscar right behind him. The rain intensified. Oscar passed Max on lap 8 and pulled clear.
He's fast and loose right now up front, keeping the McLaren behind, but look at his lines, he's soaring away.
He's nearly lost it, and Piastri just has to pick his moments. The championship leader comes out of the slipstream, past the Red Bull. Papaya out front, Piastri takes the lead of the British Grand Prix.
Then came the safety car restart, and a 10-second time penalty for Oscar for slowing too sharply in front of Max while building his gap for the restart, which caught Max off guard.
It's up to him to control the speed. They've got to let the safety car get away.
He's a suddenly against first time.
The stewards ruled it dangerous driving, and Oscar was furious.
I don't think the penalty before was very fair. I mean, I know it's a big question, but if you don't think it was fair either, I think you should swap back and race.
Oscar, who was once described by his team principal as unshakable and very mature in handling emotions, was reaching a breaking point.
Yeah, I thought the penalty was pretty bad, but anyway, I'm glad we had a quick car today. Showed what I needed to prove, and yeah, just disappointing when the result you deserve gets taken from you, but that's how it goes. Thanks.
The penalty was served in the pit box when Oscar switched to slicks on lap 44. Lando inherited the lead, made his own stop, and came out in front. And he didn't lose it. In Parc Fermé, he parked the car and walked towards his family. He didn't speak for a moment.
I think tomorrow when I wake up it's going to be the best feeling, honestly, because it's more a reflection type thing, and now it's just the adrenaline's high and you're in the moment, and yeah, I think it's hard to realise what we all accomplished today as a team.
Back-to-back wins. Championship deficit down to 8 points.
The pendulum swung again when Oscar won in Belgium, and Lando responded by winning in Hungary. By the summer break, neither driver had managed to put the other away. Oscar led with 284 points to Lando's 275. The summer break had come and gone. When racing resumed in the Netherlands, Oscar won again, his 7th victory of the season. Then Lando's engine failed while running second.
There is smoke! Lando Norris has a problem!
Yeah, I don't know if I'm on fire or not. It doesn't smell good. Smoke in the cockpit.
Okay, mate, we're checking.
Lando Norris is retiring from the Dutch Grand Prix! A huge moment in the World Championship!
A mechanical retirement, nothing he could control. But it handed Oscar a 34-point lead.
Was a good drive today, nothing more I can really ask. You start to get dirty air at 4 seconds. To be within 3 or 2 I wasn't really expecting today, so I thought I did a good job, but doesn't help much, doesn't mean much, doesn't mean I got more points or whatever. It's just reassuring. The pace was strong, and look ahead to the next one.
And Max Verstappen, lurking in third with over 100 points to make up, was about to start charging.
McLaren's Papaya Rules were tested again, and this time the fallout was louder.
They're celebrating at McLaren, but Lando Norris has been beaten by Max Verstappen by 0.07 of a second.
Max took pole at Monza, the fastest qualifying lap in Formula 1 history. On the opening lap, he went wheel to wheel with Lando down the start-finish straight, ran across the chicane to stay ahead, and was immediately told to hand the lead back. He did, and then retook it again on lap 4, and after that nobody got close. He won by nearly 20 seconds, but it was the ending that people talked about. With 7 laps to go, McLaren pitted Oscar first, a lap before Lando, a decision made to cover Leclerc behind and protect the podium. Oscar's stop took 1.9 seconds. Lando pitted a lap later, and something went wrong with the front left wheel gun.
What's going on with Lando Norris here? What's going on with Lando Norris? A slow stop when it counts, a 5.9 second stop when it counts, and that is going to eradicate the advantage. Piastri has had access to the softer tyres.
We are boxing the cars this way around to ensure you cover Leclerc. You are free with Lando once he's ahead of the exit.
Through goes Oscar Piastri.
His stop took 5.9 seconds. When he emerged from the pit lane, Oscar was steaming down the main straight ahead of him. Lando was third. He just lost second through no fault of his own. The team acted within seconds. Oscar's engineer came on the radio.
Oscar, this is a bit like Hungary last year. We pitted in this order for team reasons. Please let Lando pass, then you're free to race.
Oscar was not pleased.
We said that a slow pit stop was part of racing, I don't really get what changed here, but he really wanted to do it, then I'll do it.
He slowed and let Lando back through.
Norris and Piastri have swap places, Max.
Just because he had a slow stop?
It's not our business, but I guess it keeps it fair between the drivers in terms of championship. You focus on the road ahead as well, please.
They were then told they were free to race to the flag. The positions held. Lando finished second, Oscar third, 3 points clawed back. After the race, Oscar was measured.
There was clearly valid reasons for swapping back, and Lando qualified ahead, was ahead the whole race. So I get that. There's just some things we need to discuss.
But he added, pointedly, that the situation would need reviewing before the next race.
We thought that the fair thing to do was to go back to the positions that we had before the pit stop. I'm sure this is Oscar will be very comfortable with this. He already was comfortable during the race, so we show again the values, the principles that we have at McLaren.
His championship lead, 31 points, with 8 rounds to go. Was McLaren managing their title battle correctly? Were the Papaya Rules helping Lando, or were they costing Oscar a championship that has been his to lose?
Oscar Piastri arrived in Baku still fielding questions about Monza. He was glad, he said, to get back in the car and focus on driving. The driving did not go well.
Piastri's in the wall! Oscar Piastri, the championship leader, hits the barriers and will play no further part of the qualifying session.
Qualifying at the Baku City circuit produced one of the most chaotic sessions in the Formula 1 season. a record 6 red flags triggered by accidents involving Albon, Hülkenberg, Behrman, Gasly, Colapinto, Leclerc, and finally Oscar himself, who put his McLaren into the wall at turn 3 with the session nearing its end. He hadn't set a time, he would start 9th.
Yeah, obviously a disappointing end. Felt like the car was good and the pace was there, just disappointing way to end it.
Max, who had somehow kept his car on the road through it all, took pole by nearly half a second. Lando, who had come close to the wall himself, managed to get a lap in but was 7th.
We took the risk of trying to go first out, thinking, if there was another crash, at least I get the lap in. But I think it was just a lot worse for the track because it was still raining a little bit. So, yeah, you win some, you lose some.
Sunday started badly for Oscar before it even started. At the moment the lights went out, he jumped them. He engaged anti-stall, trying to correct it, lurched forward, and dropped to the very back of the field before the first corner. 19 cars ahead of him, 51 laps to go, and Baku, tight, unforgiving, almost impossible to overtake on, was the worst possible circuit for a recovery drive. He made it as far as turn 5 on lap 1.
He's in the wall, he's out of the race! Oscar Piastri into the barriers, and his Grand Prix ends on the opening lap!
Trying to fight back through the pack, he braked late, locked up, and drove straight into the barrier at speed. The championship leader sat down in the trackside plastic chair and watched the safety car come out on a circuit he just left scattered with carbon fibre. His first retirement since October 2023. Up ahead, Max had already begun his procession. He led every lap, pitted once on lap 41, rejoined still in front, and won by nearly 15 seconds from George Russell. Lando, meanwhile, was stranded in the midfield chaos that Oscar had left behind. He finished in 7th, exactly where he'd started.
Didn't really matter how quick the car was. I think the car was good, but just too difficult to follow and overtake.
He'd needed to win, and he closed the gap by 6 points. Oscar, for his part, was brutal in his own self-assessment.
It was a simple mistake there, and then I think just didn't anticipate the dirty air anywhere near well enough and just went in too deep. So
his championship lead was 25 points. Max, who had been 104 points behind after Zandvoort, was now 69 back. 3 wins in 3 races. The momentum had shifted entirely. McLaren had come to Baku with a chance to clinch the Constructors' title. They left having watched their 2 drivers have their worst weekend of the season, simultaneously, on the same streets, in front of the same cameras.
Not a great qualifying yesterday. Today we couldn't improve the situation. Actually, we made it worse, if anything, with the crash that saw Oscar involved. Some uncharacteristic mistakes for Oscar. Hopefully they were all accumulated in this event, and now we will be clear for the rest of the season. He is probably the most solid, consistent driver so far. So just a one-off.
3 wins for Max since the summer break. The McLaren drivers were, in the bluntest assessment, letting the title slip through their fingers right from the front.
The 2025 Constructors' title was secured in Singapore, ahead of Mercedes by 325 points.
McLaren will retain their crown. They are the Constructors' Champions of 2025. McLaren, World Champions, once again.
The result was never really in doubt. But the race itself told a different story. Lando and Oscar made contact on the exit of turn 3. Lando knocked sideways by Max's Red Bull ahead of him, sliding into his teammate.
He's got his teammate on the right-hand side, super aggressive into this one. He hit Max Verstappen.
So are we cool with Lando just barging out of the way, or what's the go there?
So we're looking at it, let me get back to you.
The incident threatened to tear apart everything McLaren had carefully managed between the 2 incredibly talented, competitive young men.
Obviously very proud of the whole team, and this is one of the 2 objectives we set out to achieve every year, so to achieve it with this many races to go is very, very impressive.
The United States sprint race was supposed to be a reset. Instead, it became another entry in the list. At turn 1, Oscar slowed to cut back underneath Lando. Sauber's Nico Hülkenberg, arriving fast on the inside, hadn't seen it coming and drove straight into Oscar's left rear. The contact launched Oscar's car sideways into Lando.
This is on board with Oscar. He's thinking, right, good start, let's play it on the brakes. You find out where you are. He's got room, leaves for the cutback, and as he does the cutback, of course, you've got Hulkenberg coming in like a torpedo.
So Oscar, be careful, we have possible suspension damage.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do. See that?
Nightmare for McLaren. I don't think that was a ridiculous move from Piastri. I don't think this was ridiculous from Norris. It was punchy and aggressive on the brakes, but he had to go for it, and then he just gets a whack. Piastri gets a whack.
Yeah, someone just whacks me out. I'm out.
Both McLarens were out on the opening lap. Lando's left rear wheel came off on impact. Oscar limped on briefly, then stopped with suspension damage. Zak Brown, watching from the pit wall, called it amateur hour, referring to Nico Hulkenberg driving into Oscar. Max, who'd avoided the chaos from pole position, won the sprint. He then won the Grand Prix on Sunday, with Lando second and Oscar fifth. The gap at the top of the standings: 14 points between the McLarens, with Max just 40 back. In Mexico, Lando won, but he was booed on the podium.
I mean, it's one weekend at a time. It's one weekend at a time, so I'm happy. I'm focused on myself. I keep my head down. I ignore all of this, and I keep to myself. And it's working at the minute, so I'm happy.
The Monza team order, Oscar giving way to Lando, hadn't been forgotten by some fans, particularly in Mexico, where Oscar's popularity ran deep. They saw a championship being handed away, and they let Lando know.
They have the right to think whatever they want. Like Oscar deserved the win last year in Budapest. I deserve to be ahead of Monza. Simple as that.
He was now championship leader by a single point. In Brazil, Lando won the sprint. He also won the Grand Prix, and he was booed again.
Las Vegas. Lando led from pole. Max went aggressive into turn 1. A bold defensive move from the Dutch driver forced Lando wide, and he fell from first to third in an instant.
But it's super aggressive from the pole sitter. Who's off? Who's wide? The lead for Max Verstappen as Lando Norris rejoins. He went bold, but Verstappen got by.
The race settled. Strategies played out. Both McLarens crossed the finish line with competitive results. Lando second, Oscar fourth, Max first.
Honestly, I'm more thankful it didn't cost me the race win today. I think just our lack of speed, lack of performance today was a much bigger issue.
Then, hours later, came the news nobody saw coming.
We've got some breaking news here in the paddock. The McLaren's Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri have been disqualified from the Las Vegas Grand Prix.
The FIA inspectors had found excessive wear on the floor planks of both cars, a technical infringement. 25 points stripped away from Lando, 12 from Oscar. Overnight, a championship lead of 24 points became a lead of nothing. Max was now just 12 points off Lando. Oscar, who'd been climbing back into contention, was tied with Max in third.
Well, the way we operate as a team is we are McLaren Racing, we go racing, we let them race, we want to give our drivers their opportunity, and we will try to preserve as much as possible the fairness, the sportsmanship, the equality.
A 2-horse race had become 3. In Woking, McLaren's engineers would spend the next week understanding how 2 cars had simultaneously fallen foul of a regulation they'd navigated all season. In Las Vegas, their 2 drivers went to bed knowing the title fight they thought was nearly over had suddenly, violently, reopened. In Qatar, McLaren made a strategy error. They kept Lando and Oscar out during a safety car period when everyone else pitted. Both lost ground.
We made the wrong decision. I feel terrible for Oscar and Lando. Oscar was absolutely impeccable all weekend, so we let them down. You win and lose as a team, but definitely not a great moment.
Max won. He was now 12 points behind Lando going into the final race.
Pretty gut-wrenching, to be honest. I think, felt like I drove probably the best weekend I've had this year, if not in F1. To not have the results is painful.
Yas Marina Circuit, December 2025. 24 races, one last night under the floodlights. For the first time since 2010, 3 drivers went into the season finale with a genuine shot at the championship. Lando led on 408 points, Max on 396, Oscar on 392. A single race to decide it all. Lando needed to finish on the podium, first, second, or third, to become world champion, regardless of where Max or Oscar finished. Max needed to win, and for Lando to finish 4th or lower.
And our top 3 contenders for the title are in the top 3 positions on the grid. Max Verstappen with his 8th pole of the year.
Max qualified on pole, Lando 2nd, and Oscar 3rd. When the lights went out, Max cut across to cover Lando into turn 1. Oscar, starting on the harder tyre compound, sensed his moment later on the opening lap and swept past his teammate to move up to 2nd, and Lando was 3rd.
Can he go the long way round? This would be audacious! That is absolutely unbelievable! Still fighting for this title! Oscar Piastri up to 2nd!
For now, the championship was exactly where Lando needed it. But Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari had him in his DRS window and chased him for the first stint. When Lando pitted on lap 16, he emerged into a sea of traffic. Yuki Tsunoda, on an alternative strategy, weaved across the straight to hold him up.
Can Norris use the slipstream and get ahead? Tsunoda, nearly off the road there. Lando Norris, decisive move to the inside. Tsunoda thinks about the lunge, but there's nothing he can do.
The stewards eventually penalised Yuki for making more than one change of direction, but not before a series of tense moments that left McLaren holding their breath on the pit wall. Lando cleared the traffic in waves. He overtook Kimi Antonelli and Alex Albon. He made a brilliant move at turn 6 to pass both Lance Stroll and Liam Lawson simultaneously. By the time Oscar pitted on lap 41, Lando was back in 3rd and managing a comfortable margin to Charles Leclerc behind him.
Max Verstappen wins the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix!
His 8th victory of the season, a dominant, flawless performance in a race he could control but not convert into a title. Oscar finished 2nd. Lando finished 3rd. He crossed the line, he held his breath for a fraction of a second. The numbers had confirmed it.
Lando Norris, who takes his first World Championship in 2025. It's the promised land for Lando.
2 points. Lando Norris became Formula One World Champion by just 2 points.
Lando, this is Zach from McLaren. Is this the World Champion Hotline?
Thank you guys. Oh my god, you made a kid's dream come true. Thanks so much. I love you guys. Thanks for everything. You deserve it. I love you, Mum. I love you, Dad. Thanks for everything.
The man Ron Dennis once doubted, the shy kid from Somerset who needed his press officer to help him face a room full of journalists. The driver who carried the nickname Lando No-Wins for years had won everything there was to win. He was 26 years old, and he was the first McLaren's driver champion in 17 years.
But today was a fairly smooth day, and I achieved my little dream from many, many years ago. A dream that I shared with my parents, my whole family. They've all supported me since I was a kid, and it's always hard to imagine. It's hard to imagine. How far away is it? What year is it going to be? What do you have to do? But now I know.
6 weeks after Abu Dhabi, Formula One entered a new era. The 2026 regulations bring the most significant overhaul the sport has seen in years. Every team started from a blank sheet of paper. The advantage McLaren had built so carefully could, in theory, belong to anyone.
Yeah, I think we've produced a good car. I think we'll be in the Big Four. I don't think we're in the front, but it's going to be a long season with a lot of development. We're still learning, but I think we're in a good starting position. But I think the red guys and the silver guys, I think, are looking very strong, and I don't think we've seen everything yet out of Red Bull, but I think we're definitely in the top four.
The MCL 40 broke cover in Barcelona, went through a shakedown, and then headed to Bahrain for 2 full weeks of pre-season testing in February. Lando, now wearing the number 1 on his car for the first time as reigning champion, drove the MCL 40 first. His verdict after day 1 was characteristically direct about the challenge ahead.
It was just nice to be back. Nice to be back here. Nice to see a number 1 on my car. So pretty cool, pretty surreal still. It's a good feelings. Just to be back here. Our first day on track. A first time that everyone gets to see the car in one piece. It's literally not been built until this morning. So it's an incredible thing. Nice to see it all come together. Nice to see all the hard work.
We're learning more each day, he said, but there are still a lot of things to get our heads around. That was something every driver on the grid was discovering. The new regulations demand an entirely different relationship between driver and machine. Oscar, who covered 86 laps in a single afternoon session, called it a solid day, but acknowledged the learning curve was steep.
Still plenty of things to learn there, but I think we kind of understood some of the problems, some of the limitations, some of the things that are just different compared to last year, both on the power unit and the car, because obviously the car itself is it's got a lot less downforce than what we had last year as well. So just getting used to that and how that feels has been the biggest thing we've started to get ourselves into.
McLaren logged 422 laps across the first test, tied with Williams for the highest total in the field, and 395 more across the second week. The reigning champions were reliability benchmarks before the season had even begun. The timesheets told a more complicated story. McLaren and Red Bull traded fastest laps through much of the running, with Mercedes joining the fray intermittently. The competitive order, as always in testing, remained impossible to read with certainty.
It's a big reset, one of the biggest we have seen in the history of Formula One. New chassis, new power unit, new tires. And I guess the feeling is a feeling of, discovery. Like we are excited to go and see how these new Formula One cars behave, how the competitive, the pecking order might have changed, where are we, what is ahead of us in terms of re-establishing ourselves as a lead team.
Oscar, heading into the season with fire still burning from the title that slipped away by 13 points, had his own message as testing closed.
Yeah, I think the biggest positive from the test has just been how smoothly it's gone for us. Especially, all 3 days we got a lot of laps in, but especially the last day 2 and day 3, both of us got the most laps of the day in, and we've had a few minor niggles here and there, but everything's ran pretty much to plan, which has been good.
The 2026 season begins in Melbourne in March. Lando will arrive as champion. Oscar will arrive hungry. The rest of the grid will arrive determined to end what McLaren started.
McLaren won the 2025 Constructors Championship by 364 points over Mercedes, their 10th in team history, their second in consecutive seasons. But the story of 2025 wasn't just about speed or strategy or tyre management, though all of those mattered. It was about the kind of team McLaren had become under Zak Brown and the kind of culture Andrea Stella built inside it.
The best way to win the Constructors is to finish first and second in the championship. And the best way to win the Drivers' Championship is to have 2 drivers going for the Drivers' Championship. And in the event 2007 happens again, I'd rather have that outcome than all the other outcomes by playing favorites. We won't do it. We're racers, we're going racing.
A team that believed in fairness even when it was hard, that stood by a philosophy, Papaya Rules, 2 number 1s, race hard and race clean, even when critics said it was naive. That found a way to have 2 elite drivers competing for the same championship without it tearing the team apart.
We do hope, and we are working very hard to make sure that the driver's champion drives a Papaya car. And if that's the case, there's only going to be one. But for us, it's important that the other one will think that there's been sportsmanship, there's been fairness, there's been equality. Within this framework, we have the conditions to win even in the future. We are protecting the present, We are protecting the future. And they know that they are going to have these opportunities in the future, because the future doesn't stop at the end of 25. McLaren wants to win in 26, in 27, in 28.
It wasn't perfect. Canada happened, Monza happened, Las Vegas happened, and Qatar happened. But they came through. And in doing so, they showed something that gets lost sometimes in the noise of Formula One, that the way you win matters.
It's still just the reality of it, like the fact it is a reality, which is the amazing thing. Like that's one of the best feelings, is still kind of trying to realize it's happened and we achieved it, and yeah, we're world champions. So like when someone says it, and it's just cool. Like the more people that say it, the better at it is. So it will never wear off.
Oscar, for his part, finished the season with his head held high, third in the championship. The man who had dominated the first half of the year, who had won 7 races and outscored everyone on the grid before the summer break. He was 24 years old. He wasn't done. His story isn't finished.
How I stack up against Lando, especially externally, is what's going to be looked at. But also, I want to beat everybody, which includes Lando. So, I want to be able to try and do that. There's certainly some things that I need to improve on that will take time, but I'm here because I want to try and win. That's going to be a good measure, I guess. But yeah, just the constant improvement is the biggest thing. And I say I want to beat everybody, but the constant improvement is what's going to make me beat everybody. So,
but this chapter belongs to McLaren. 60 years, from Bruce McLaren building his first car in a Woking garage to Lando Norris under the Abu Dhabi lights. 13 Drivers' Championships, 10 Constructors, drivers who became legends, and now, after 16 years of silence, of rebuilding, of patience, a team that came back. Not because they had the biggest budget, not because they had the most famous name on the grid, because they found the right people, built the right culture and trusted it, even when it was painful, even when the whole world was telling them to do something different. So now, the real question begins. Are we watching the start of a new McLaren era, or was 2025 a single brilliant chapter?
So girls, that was the McLaren 2025 story and the last episode of Red Flags and White Lies. We did it, we made it through. Woo-hoo! And to everyone who has listened to all of them, we really hope you've enjoyed. It's been a lot of work, but I'm feeling quite proud of us.
Yeah.
I think it was a fantastic effort from us.
I agree.
And now we have a whole year to prep for 2026.
Yeah, now that we know this is a thing that we do, let's actually prepare ahead.
Yes.
Time. Well, it was a season that ended with McLaren holding both championships and for back-to-back years having the Constructors title. Lando Norris, world champion by 2 points. Oscar Piastri, 7 race wins before the summer break and still only 24 years old. Quite an impressive feat from him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. A star of the future, I'm sure.
I reckon so. And now 2026 has arrived and it's reset everything. I'm so excited for finally the races to come. But the question on everyone's mind, can McLaren do it again? Can Lando do it again?
Ooh. I don't know, because it's like 2026 is so unknown at the moment. Like there's predictions about who's coming out on top based on preseason testing. As we said in the regulations episode and also with the past episodes, I'm not really putting McLaren in, I think, the top 3. I think I've put Mercedes and Red Bull and Ferrari maybe.
Damn.
But for me, McLaren was quite low down. I don't think they're going to do bad in 2026. I still think they're going to be very high up in the championship, but I do think the way that especially Mercedes and Red Bull are looking, I think they've got a better chance in 2026, and I think it will likely be a drivers' championship between drivers from those teams rather than against Lando and Oscar. But I don't know, it might change.
I wouldn't be so sure,
Oh yeah?
Because McLaren aren't bringing their actual power unit until they arrive in Australia. So we won't really know everyone's true pace until we get into qualifying in Melbourne in not very long now, which is very exciting. So I wouldn't sleep on McLaren, I really wouldn't sleep on them. They've come off the back of a very, very, very successful season. And they also had a very good second half of the 2024 season. So I think that they are cementing themselves as one of the 4th fastest teams. And, traditionally we would just have Ferrari, Red Bull and Mercedes being at the top. The fact that they're even involved in the conversation after some of the poo years they've had is very impressive. So I feel like they have a very united team. They have some very clever people in the background. And I think they've got, for the first time in a long time, I feel like they've got stable leadership, a really strong brand identity. I think they have a team that embodies being an underdog whilst also having a fantastic history. And I think they've got purpose. They've got one driver with a world championship. They either want to try and get Oscar his own first championship, or would they like to get Lando his second?
Well, Oscar might be wanting to go into the Australian Grand Prix for a bit of a redemption arc. Obviously, he was doing so well last year in the Australian Grand Prix until he wasn't, and then dropped right down the order and had to do a bit of a recovery drive at the end of the race. But do you think that the psychological weight of defending titles is going to impact how the team operates? Obviously, with Lando, we had a lot of talk over the year about the psychological impact and the mental toll of trying to win a championship, and how he doesn't know what it feels like to be winning a championship and to be a championship leader and stuff like that. And with Oscar, he's going to know what it feels like to lose a championship by such tight margins, especially when everyone in the first half of the year thought it was almost certainly going to be his. How do you think that's going to impact them?
I think it raises the team's standards to be able to achieve excellence. So I think for the pros, I think that means people are doubling down on the work they'll be doing in Woking in the McLaren camp. I also think that they will have had a fantastic opportunity to know what it's like to be right at the front. And I think that pressure, diamonds are made under pressure. So it can be really, really useful for a team. I mean, yes, Oscar did fumble the bag slightly in 2025 with the championship hopes that went from almost certain to almost nothing. Do I feel that sorry for him? No, I don't. He hasn't had to wait very fucking long to get himself into a position where he can win a championship, for fuck's sake. He joined in 2023, and by 2025, he's, gunning for his first world championship. He has got many more years in this sport to be able to develop, to be able to mature, to be able to hone his skills. And when McLaren were up in 2023, they were nowhere. Start of 2024, the Bahrain race, they were managing an issue. And if you remember, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri had to continually come back into the pits to do 20 to 25 second stops. I can't remember if it was something to do with a pump or a fuel or something they had to keep adding air into or something. Yeah, something was going wrong. They were right at the back, and then the next race they finished 17th and whatever, 10th. Oscar Piastri, he has got a fantastic redemption arc over the winter. Much like Charles Leclerc, he will recognise that Lando is the golden boy of McLaren. Charles Leclerc is obviously the golden boy of Ferrari. So he will see, that guy got a championship, huh? All those damn Papaya Rules. So yeah, there'll be a little bit of saltiness, but I also think Oscar showed the class that he has as a racing driver. I think he's definitely going to win quite a few championships in the future if he's able to hone his skills, keep his head up, and get on with the racing, because I thought he was a fantastic racer last year. I thought he really showed a maturity beyond his years, to be honest with you. But yeah, he's going to want Lando's neck.
I think the McLaren team needs to be very careful in 2026 about how they approach Papaya Rules, because the way that they explained what it is, it's supposed to be about racing fair and racing clean, but actually what 2025 showed was that in some moments Papaya Rules meant favoritism.
Yeah.
And I think they indirectly put Lando first and prioritized his race and him winning the championship over Oscar. And Oscar, who's been very clear-headed from the start of the season, started to crack a bit after Monza. And obviously that affected him when he went into Baku and he ended up crashing. And you could see him get increasingly more and more frustrated throughout the rest of the season. And I don't think he'd be able to take that in 2026. I think where he might approach it is he might start to get even more aggressive. They might end up ruining their chances at winning a Constructors title if that's what they're going to be fighting for in 2026 again, if we see more fighting between Lando and Oscar, because Oscar decides he doesn't want to follow the Papaya Rules. So they need to be very, very careful, because the cracks were showing a bit in 2025 and it could be a full-blown disaster if they continue the way that they are in 2026.
But I mean, McLaren always said they don't have a number one driver. But in 2026, they have a driver who is literally number one.
Mhm.
He's driving with the number one. That is his race number. And that in itself is going to, I think, for Lando, set an expectation that he is number one.
Yep.
I mean, let me make it abundantly clear. I think it's a load of old horseshit that McLaren think that they have 2 number one races. What a bit of bullshit that is. We don't all get medals for competing and having a good time with our friends. It's the highest level of fucking motorsport, for God's sake. Of course there's a number one and a number two driver. Look at every other fucking team.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't, I mean, apart from Ferrari, where it's like, whoa, didn't think the younger guy would be the number one driver.
Or they have number two drivers.
Yeah, legit. No, Charles Leclerc was the number one driver last year. My God.
No, he always will be. He's their golden boy. He's
Exactly.
like the prodigal son
He
of
is.
Ferrari.
But I think for a lot of it, I think that Lando's been with the team since 2019 and he's shown his loyalty to that team. There was definitely rumours around 2024 that he might leave with the lack of performance coming out of that car until suddenly that upgrade came and everything changed. I honestly, I just think they made such a fucking nonsense out of all this fucking Papaya Rules crap. They should have just said, we have 2 racing drivers, we have 1 fucking winning car, we're going to let them hop in their respective cars, go round the track a million times, and whoever comes out on top, brilliant. And if they crash either of those cars because they're bumping into each other, whoever caused it will be paying for it. That's what they did back in 2016 when Lewis and Nico Rosberg were both battling for the same championship within the same team. And that battle was, unfortunately, it was a very sad state for the Mercedes team. However, they had an open policy. Go racing. They have all this fucking nonsense of Papaya Rules every 2 seconds. I think it ended up being a rod for their own back, and they couldn't really get themselves out of certain sticky situations. And then, as you say, look at Monza, for God's sake. They quite obviously favoured Lando that day. So it's like, you don't have 2 number one drivers. You have 2 number one drivers, but you have a number one driver you treat more as number one than the other one that's number one. Doesn't make any sense. Just say it's number one, number two.
And how embarrassing is it as well that even like Max made a comment about it at Monza in his own race, like sent a radio message saying, oh, he really let him get past. And that's the person who was gunning for a championship as well. It's just, it makes them look very embarrassing.
But then maybe this will be the end of it. Maybe it'll be Lando's got number one in his car. He won last year. He's number one in the garage, and that's the way it is. Race hard, get past Lando on track, get more points than him, and suddenly you'll find the favours in your camp. We're treating it equal. Until you prove yourself, he's number one.
Yeah.
Get a fire under that man's bum.
And then we also have the 2-team principal sort of approach, which is not common in F1. You normally have one guy that's at the top, a number one driver and a number two driver, but McLaren seem to make everyone number ones. They've got 2 number one drivers and 2 people acting as team principal. You've obviously got Zach Brown and Andrea Stella. And I feel like those two have a very different approach to one another. You've got Andrea Stella, who's very calm, methodical, and really thought out. And then you have Zach Brown, who's a bit more like brash and just says what he thinks and stuff like that. Do you think that he has really saved and transformed the team? And, well, I mean, the proof is kind of in the pudding. He saved McLaren from the Honda era, brought in Renault, hired Andrea Stella, and he got them out of that bad period. Do you think he has what it takes to make them stay in their great period?
For the clarity for people listening, Zach Brown is the CEO of McLaren. Andrea Stella is the team principal of McLaren. The reason that Zach Brown is so involved in interviews and is such a prominent figure is because he was team principal until he then stepped up to being just CEO, and now they have the team principal being Andrea Stella. In other teams, most other team principals are CEO and team principal. McLaren have decided to split those duties in half. I think it makes more sense. I think he obviously got rid of Honda. That was a complete shit show. And they're now with Mercedes as a customer team to them. I think Andrea Stella is a fantastic leader. He's spent time in Ferrari, so he knows what thing or two. I think that they've actually got a great synergy. I also think that Zach is very good. Remember all the advertising? He's managed to get Google Chrome as a sponsor. He's been able to bring in some more revenue for the team. There was a point where people were kind of taking the mick out of Zach and basically saying that he was just like really typical American, all about the sort of commercial and capitalism, just like whacking anything on the fucking car just to make a quick buck. But he was quite obviously building towards something.
Yeah.
And he's been able to really go for it. And I actually find Zach Brown around to be quite a likeable character, to be honest with you. I think he wears his heart on his sleeve. I think he's firm but fair. I did see that he was doing like a talk once they'd won at the end of 2025, and he was making sort of like almost like a wedding speech style sort of thing to the crowd. And he was like, oh, Lando and Oscar love me. They call me Big Daddy. And I was a bit like, I don't know about that. That's a bit weird. I think maybe Uncle's had too many drinks tonight. But I love the synergy that McLaren seem to have. I think they've got some really clever people, and I think they've got great momentum. And yeah, I think Daddy Zach Brown, I think, has done a fantastic job, and I think they should ride that wave as long as they can. The question is, does 2026 bring a tsunami of competition that outrides that wave?
Damn.
Thank you.
I mean, I think, like you said, proof is in the pudding. I think the fact that they've won 2 constructors in a row speaks volumes, because, you know, if you compare to Red Bull, where Red Bull has a very strong driver with Max Verstappen, but they've not managed to make it so that they have 2 very strong drivers and 2 very strong cars, they've ended up not being able to achieve a Constructors Championship. And McLaren have been able to achieve the Constructors because they've managed to have 2 very strong drivers, and they've been able to give the same chances to both Lando and to Oscar. I mean, Oscar came in 2023. The year that Lando won his first race in 2024 was the same year that Oscar won his first race as well. So there was barely a gap between the both of them.
Yeah.
I think they'll be able to continue to grow. I think Zach is a great team leader, same as Andrea Stella. I think they will continue to work towards constructors. The problem is how much of what they're doing is affecting the drivers in terms of the Drivers' Championship, because them interfering prevents them from being able to race properly. And then who knows what the consequences of that will be later, as both of them start to get a lot more sick of it.
Okay, so before we go on to the round table, the final round table of this year's series, I'm going to ask the girlies a little shady question.
Oh.
Lando Norris is obviously the most recent McLaren champion now, and before him, the last champion for McLaren was Lewis Hamilton, who went on to become one of F1's most highly decorated champions and most successful champions the sport has seen. Where do you think Lando Norris is going to stack up in the history books? Do you think he's going to be one of the greats? Or do you think this was an easy win and he might not see many more?
Lando Norris is surrounded by some fantastic company, by the way. For people that think that the Papaya team are the new kids on the block, no. The team has been around for many years, many decades, and seen many different faces of the sport. But they've got Emerson Fittipaldi, James Hunt, Niki Lauda, Alain Prost, Ayrton Senna, Mika Hakkinen, Lewis Hamilton, and Lando Norris.
Huge names.
Huge names.
Such legacies as well.
Yes, huge F1 household names. So I guess it's unfair to say, oh, Lando doesn't stack up compared to the rest of them, because he's still writing the chapters in his story book of how he gets on in Formula One. I think he's a very different style of driver to many of the names I've just listed, but I think he's formidable in his own sort of way. And I think that as the years go on, if McLaren can continue to offer him a competitive car, I think that Lando could flourish into a fantastic driver. Do I think that there are tendencies with some of his driving which maybe hold him back? Yes, I do think so. However, I think 2025 really cemented a lot of his learnings throughout his time in the sport, and I think we saw some of Lando's best driving. So I really hope that he can become a name that people recognise and nod to as his own legacy in Formula One. But time will tell. I think, unfortunately for him, McLaren caught the wave of their fantastic form late into a regulation cycle that was coming to an end, and it might be difficult to transition from one era of car to another and be able to transition one era of dominance to another, and that might be the sticking point.
That was very nicely said.
Thank you.
I don't know about Lando.
She said weak champ.
Here's the thing. Yes, Lando was a brilliant driver in 2025, obviously. I mean, he won it.
Mm-hmm.
Thing is, it was Oscar who had that dominant period at the start of the season, all the way until the summer break. And truly, we were all thinking Oscar is going to be the one who's going to win it.
Oh, I would have put money on it.
Yes, he was like way ahead. And Lando was still getting points. He was still getting, podiums consistently, but it was Oscar who was winning. And then he made the silly errors. And then there was Max's huge comeback. And by the end of the 2025 season, I was rooting for Max because Max was doing a drive of a championship winner. Like, he was aggressive, he didn't hold back, and he just went from being behind with over 100 points to basically not winning by 2 points. At the end of it, Lando kind of won out of luck, if you really think about it, because it could have gone any way. It could have gone to Max, it could have gone to Oscar. So, to me, his season wasn't like, this is a legacy championship winner. I don't know, I didn't see the drive there.
I raise you, though, that Max Verstappen has been in the sport since 2015. Lando's been in the sport since 2019. And, you're looking at Max's 2025 season, which I agree was a fantastic comeback and showed the grit and determination and mindset of a real champion, because he did a fantastic job with a car which most of the year was a complete shitbox to have to drive around corners left, right and centre. However, if you are looking at Max, you're looking at his season 2025, that's his 10th season in Formula 1. You're looking at Lando's 6th season in Formula 1. And on top of that, Max has always had a consistently fast car, whereas Lando has been in a car which has been midfield, front of the midfield, and only in the last few years been right at the top. And there were years of Max's career in Formula 1 where he was known quite openly as Crash Verstappen. He was barging into people, making sloppy mistakes, coming into corners way too hot and barging people out of the way, overly aggressive, and needed to be refined and keep sanding down those slightly harsher edges that he had to his racecraft. I'm not saying they're not still present, because Barcelona 2025 with George Russell tells you all you need to know at Max at his very angriest. And when he drives angry, the aggression and the elbows come right out. What my point is that Lando has not had as many seasons to refine his driving and his consistency and his performances as Max had. If we look at Lando's season in 4 years' time in 2029, I bet you'll have a much more complete driver as we have with Max. Do I think that Lando will get to 4 straight seasons of dominance to be able to ride that wave as well as Max did? Only time will tell. I'm not sure that we can compare Lando and Max, because Max is a generational talent. We're yet to see if Lando is the same.
What I will say about Lando is, and it's something that we've all praised him for, the importance and the emphasis that he puts on mental health. And I really hope that now that he's a champion, he keeps that going and he doesn't, become a diva. And he keeps emphasizing the importance of, men and athletes and stuff like that.
What if he starts saying, like, I tell you what's really good for your mental health? Winning.
Oh, well, then you've lost your edge and you just sound like a bit of a douche, don't you?
Well, that's fair.
Or as we referred to him in the first episode of Grand Prix, a brat.
Yes, exactly. Don't be a brat, Lando.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the final roundtable of this season of Red Flags and White Lies. Girlies, what is your prediction for McLaren's 2026 constructor position?
P4.
P4.
P3.
P3.
P3. Maybe even P2.5.
I wasn't allowed to say 1.5 for Mercedes, so you're not allowed to say
P2 3/4.
No, you're not allowed.
P2 and 5/8.
I need a round number.
P3.
P3, okay. Who are you putting ahead?
I think I'm putting Ferrari and Mercedes ahead. I think Mercedes could actually wrap this up. No. Because I think, I don't know. Oh, who fucking knows? Do you know what I mean? Who fucking knows? I've done this 10 times, lad. I don't know. I'll find out at the end of the fucking year, won't I? I think that potentially McLaren could come out of the gate still quite hot. They have a Mercedes engine. They have a lot of clever people in Woking, and they've got the great momentum. They've got 2 very world-class drivers, one of which has just won a championship. I think things could go quite well for them. So I'm going to put my money on P2. But ultimately, I've forgotten all the other predictions I've given, so potentially I might be talking shit.
Clearly. You also forgot that 2 minutes ago you said P3.
Oh yeah, P3. P3.
Also,
I put my life on that.
Did you call them Miss Claren?
Did I call them Miss Claren?
You just called them Miss Claren.
Miss Claren.
Miss Claren.
Miss Claren.
They should rebrand.
I agree.
They become the girly pop team that they've always been deep inside. Okay, bold prediction about McLaren's 2026 season.
Neither will be in contention for a Drivers' Championship.
But I would argue that's not a bold prediction for you because you think they're going to come P4.
Well, yes, but P4 is also a bold prediction.
Give me bolder, come on.
Oscar Piastri will lead in the Drivers' Championship in points over Lando Norris this season.
I was going to say the same one.
Haha. I think Oscar's going to come into his villain arc era.
Ooh, villain era for Piastri.
There, that's my bold prediction.
I'd love
and that
to
will be
see it.
reflected in his amazing results compared to Lando.
He starts actually having facial expressions when he's talking to the press instead of just the same face.
Oh, you're a shady queen. You realise this isn't the fucking untuck room.
Someone's been watching Drag Race.
Someone's knowledgeable about things, yeah.
Okay, and your confidence level on a scale of 1 to 10 that McLaren can defend both titles.
Oh, a 5.
4.
I'm saying a 7.
Oh, we've got no fucking...
Oh, no, wait, 7 is quite confident. So flip that around. A 3. I know, honestly, it's so difficult. You'd think after 10 episodes we'd have it down. I'm saying a 3.
Damn, none of us are confident in McLaren, huh?
No.
Ooh.
I think also there's a need in this sport to root for an underdog, and they're suddenly not underdogs anymore, so it's like, I don't think they'll do it again. I don't think so. I think Ferrari are looking pretty hot this year, you know?
Yeah.
Listen, I'm reading signs this year, okay? And it's the year of the horse.
This is the 3rd episode in a row you bring up the year of the horse.
Yeah, literally. Can't wait for them to get disqualified at the first 5 races.
Oh, it's going to happen. I know it is. So there we have it. That is red flags and white lies all finished, and now it is finally time to really sink our teeth into the 2026 season. If you missed it, go back an episode and listen to us giving our rundown of the new regulations for this year, as well as pre-season testing. It's the one-stop shop you need to listen to before we get racing in Australia. The next episode that's going to come to your ears is going to be next week, and it will be the Drive to Survive episode. Today, we are going to be binge-watching that series, taking notes on all of the important things we need to discuss, and getting our mics out when we're done. Don't expect to sleep, girlies. It's an all-nighter kind of night.
Gulp.
And then the episode after that is going to be the Australian Grand Prix ep. The season opener. I'm so excited. And while we wait, we're going to be creating some great fun social content for you guys to start liking and engaging with. You can find us on socials. We're on Instagram, TikTok, X and YouTube. On X and Instagram, we have our own individual accounts. You can find us at Grand Prix Nav, Grand Prix Izzy and Grand Prix Reem, so make sure you give those a follow. If you've liked this episode, you've liked the series, you like us in general, please leave a review, leave a rating, share us with your friends, your families, your colleagues, all of the other people that you can share with. If you don't like us, just click off, don't do anything, don't share any hate. We're not about that here at Grand Prix, and we will see you next time.